Artemus Toast here, and we're doing another new playlist. As you can see by the piece of paper held up, it's going to be cooking with toast. Not only am I the world's greatest guitarist, magical ears of honey, roadie for over 100 bands, session guitarist on, countless albums. You know, in those travels, I also visited a lot of county fairs and rodeos and even cook-offs, traveling with various bands, and as a result, I'm a pretty good cook, I'd like to think, especially when it comes to barbecue and things like that, and plus you spending a large portion of my life in Texas, but yeah, that's what we're doing now, cooking with toast, man. I don't know what else to say. We're going to be doing baby back ribs today. I got the Masterbuilt 30-inch electric smoker actually warming up right now outside, temperature of 225 degrees. A lot of people like the keep their smoker clean. I don't. I usually let it burn for a while. Try to keep all that smoke flavor, from past cookings. I personally feel that, that's where a lot of the flavor lies. A lot of people may not agree with that, and to each their own. I don't. Everybody thinks they're an expert when it comes to smoking and barbecue, and with the YouTubes, everybody is gonna offer their own opinion, and that's what I'm doing. For many years of doing this is the a method that I find that works really well, and it makes for ribs that fall off the bone. So if I'm not sticking to a particular plan, I don't really care. It's my plan. So you keep your comments to yourself. You make your ribs your way. I'm gonna make them my way. But this is, kind of talking about the Masterbuilt 30-inch digital electric smoker too, which I've owned for a couple years now, and once again, not a paid endorsement. It's just something that I use quite often, and I'd like to. I'm not really sharing my opinion on it. It's all kinds of awesome, to be perfectly honest. I'm just making some ribs today, and talking about my Artemus toast recipe and some of the preparation, and let's get right to it, man. Now that I got all the dry ingredients, I'm just gonna mix those together. Start with the brown sugar there, then put everything else together there. And what I usually do is I just use a fork to mix everything together. There's a little bit of moisture in the brown sugar, and I feel that I guess you could use a whisk or what have you. But I'm using this small bowl right here, so I'm just going to use this fork, in order to rub them right onto the ribs there. Another thing I wanted to mention real quick is, I did this last night. What I do is I have about a gallon container, and I put my wood chips in. And actually, for smoking these ribs, this might be a little unorthodox, and I'm just using what wood chips I happen to have left. I'm actually using peach wood. Normally with ribs, I usually do maybe apple wood, or sometimes oak, sometimes mesquite. I usually use mesquite for beef dishes. But sometimes even maple. But I do use peach every once in a while. It's what I had a lot of leftover. Peach is a mild wood for a mild smoke flavor, which when you're cooking something that doesn't have a whole lot of meat, and a whole lot of thickness to the meat, such as ribs, pork ribs. You don't want a real overpowering smoke. And I also don't smoke it the whole cooking process, because you're gonna get that smoke flavor, and you don't want it to dry out too much, and don't want it to be overpowering. So that's why I'm well, there's another reason, you know, let them soak up wood overnight, so you kind of create some steam within an electric smoker. To once again, the whole premise of this is you know, when you slow cook, you know, it does keep the meat tender and it does give the smoky flavor, but you know, you also want to dry things out as slow as possible, so that way you don't get, you know, it's not too tough in some of the parts. But once again, you know, peach wood soaked overnight in water, which is all that is. What I have here is about 4.5 pounds of pork spare ribs, and I'm just gonna prep it and get them ready to put the dry rub on. Got some paper towels handy. I got a big disposable roasting pan, which I'm gonna, you know, put the dry rub on the ribs in the pan so I don't make too much of a mess. What I'm gonna do now is just gonna, well, basically make a big mess. Cut the ribs out of here. Definitely wanna rinse them off. And then pat them dry. A little bit of cold water here. Oh yeah. And that's just getting a lot of that mess off. And once again, you just want to kind of pat them dry there. Dry on both sides. A lot of people cut off the membrane. You know, I usually don't, to be perfectly honest, because one, it's really a pain in the butt, and oh man, I got my hair in the ribs. One thing is really a pain, and you know, my ribs are so tender, something has to hold them together, so that's why I keep that membrane on there. But we got the meat prepared here, got it rinsed off, dried off, and we'll do the rub next. Okay, now we got the rack of ribs here. We got the rub. Usually just want to sprinkle some all over it. Definitely want to try to get it in every kind of nook and cranny that you can. You know, not only to create a little bit of a bark, but also to hold some of that moisture in. Of course, you're going to do both sides and make sure you get the edges as well. Got that really flavorful rub that we had made previously. Typically, you know, I usually like to do it the night before, but you want to do this at least half an hour before you, you know, put the ribs in the smoker. Once again, we're going to go ahead and do this other side. Really, really easy. Once again, the brown sugar helps it, you know, gets caramelized a little bit and holds a lot of the flavor in, and also allows it to kind of adhere the other seasonings to the ribs as well. Try to look for the spots that they're maybe a little bit light with the rub. Once again, make sure you get every kind of nook and cranny you can. Make sure there's flavor with every bite. Alright, once again, quick job, but you know, there you go. You got some 4.5 pounds of you know, special rubbed spare ribs. In just a moment, we'll put them on the smoker. This is the Masterbuilt Electric Smokehouse we're going to be using. You know, I've had it heating for a while, trying to get it up to temperature, and also to burn off some of the old stuff. what I'm doing now, I'm gonna go ahead and set the temperature. I do like to keep it about 223 in case it flares up a little bit. You know, 225 is usually the smoking temperature that you want to use. As far as time, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and set it for maybe 6 hours even. I'm not gonna cook it that whole time, but you know, it's better to. I'm gonna go ahead and put 7 hours on there. Once again, I'm not cooking anywhere near that time. All right, the temperature's a little on the high side. Let me open this a little bit. All right, man. Let's go ahead and put these ribs in. Ooh, look at all that smoke. I like to put them on the second from the top. Ooh, got those in there. Go and latch this shut. I know I got messy, but that's okay. We're gonna do now. Put more wood chips in there. Turn the drop them, shake it a little bit. All right, we're gonna come check on this in about an hour. Okay, the ribs have been smoking for 3 hours now. I'm actually, don't know if I'm in frame here. I'm actually using what's known as the 3-2-1 method, where you smoke for 3 hours and then you wrap it tightly in foil for 2 hours. And the reason why you do that is that really allows the proteins to break down and really get the ribs you know, super tender, you know, all kinds of awesome tender, so you pull them right off the bone. And then the last step after, you know, we wrap it tightly in foil and put it back in for 2 more hours. The third step will be removing it from the foil, brushing on your favorite barbecue sauce, and letting it smoke for another hour. And then it'll be ready to eat. Got to make sure it's really tightly wrapped in foil. I prepared this already. Many layers of foil overlap so we don't lose any of the moisture. Speaking of the moisture, go ahead and spray a little bit more apple juice. Let it steam in there. Really break the meat off the bone. And again, get that wrapped really, really tight there. And, excuse me, Pez Vader. For further measure, we're going to wrap some more foil around it just to make sure we cover. Definitely don't want to lose that steam and that moisture. That's what the part that gets the ribs nice and fall off the bone tender. All kinds of awesome tender. Okay, now it's time for one of the 3-2-1 style of smoking. You know, did the 3 hours of smoking. It's been wrapped tightly in foil for the past 2 hours. And what we're going to do next is, you know, use a brush and put on our favorite barbecue sauce and put it back in the smoker for another hour without the foil. I'm using Sweet Baby Ray's, the original one. You know, perhaps in a later video I'll make my own barbecue sauce. I have in the past, just not haven't uploaded it to the YouTubes. I'm just eyeballing this, but you want probably about half a cup of barbecue sauce. And this is the regular Sweet Baby Ray's. It's not like a sweet version or anything. And keeping with the apple juice thing here, give it a few spritzes along with the barbecue sauce. Mix it all up. Another thing, you know, the meat's also sitting in its juices, you know, so when I flip it, it's gonna soak up some of that as well. Once again, just flipping this by hand. I get messy. I get the bone side here. Cover it real good. Another nice thing about, I don't always sauce up the ribs. I usually just let it go without. But, you know, when you're using a kind of a light smoke wood, you know, it's nice that last hour having the barbecue sauce on there to soak up. It's almost like a sponge for the smoke flavor. You know, one more flip here. Finish the rest of this. Oh yeah. Get it back on the smoker. And there's the finished product. It's all kinds of awesome. Like, fall off the bone good. Oh yeah. Good stuff. You can just see how it comes right up. Oh yeah, definitely good stuff. All kinds of awesome. Artemus toast. Out.